name is Dr. Brian Thatcher, and welcome to Mercy Unbound. It's a show that aims to provide hope and avenue for healing, and one that will help you understand and then live the great mercy of God. With me today, I have a special guest from Alabama. This is Jamie McAleer. She resides in Alabama with her husband. The 3 children live there, and she told me she has 15 grandchildren. So life is good. Her father opened first Krispy Kreme in Mobile in 1953, a couple years before I was born. And then eventually her husband, Jack, and his brother would take over running the company. They lived in North Carolina for several years, raising the kids, and now they're back to Alabama. We're going to talk about her book, which really touched my heart. It was beautifully written. It's called I Will Come to You, a story of adoption and the relentless love of God. And it certainly speaks to that. I hope you all enjoy the book, because we're going to talk about the adoption of son Alexander from a Russian orphanage and all the ordeals she went through, and the heartstrings were pulled and up and down, and the story of life. The book is available at sophiainstitute.com and EWTNRC for religiouscatalog.com. So, Jamie, welcome to Mercy Unbound. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You met your husband, Jack, in Auburn. I have to jump in on this, divert a little bit. I grew up in Ohio, so a Buckeye fan, and 2 of my boys went to school at Gainesville, University of Florida. So we got Gators, and when I saw Auburn, I thought, oh, I better not mention that on the show. Great to hear you. But what was that like? What were those years like when you met your husband, Jack?
Oh, it was fun. Auburn is a wonderful place. Very happy. I share in my story that it was the only place I was allowed to go to college. My father, who was a bit formal, as I never called him dad, so he was a father. But anyway, he said I could go anywhere I wanted, but he would only pay for one place, and that was Auburn, because Auburn was very conservative, and it still is, actually. There were dorm mothers and rules, and but I loved it. And of course, it was a blessing for me because I met Jack, and I fell in love with him the moment I saw him. I know love at first sight is, jokingly sometimes mentioned, but it is true. I can remember what he looked like as he stood there. It was a sort of a blind date. He came to pick me up and take me to his fraternity house, and I called my mom that night, told her I'd met the man I was going to marry,
Wow.
and she just laughed. But it took a lot of work, but anyway, we did.
Now,
I'm very determined.
how many years have you been married at this point?
43? Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. Now, you mentioned you were raised Lutheran, but
Yes.
didn't particularly come from an overly religious family. But Jack's came from a large devout Catholic family. I assume Irish with McAleer.
That's right. You're right. Scotch Irish. Yes.
Did that cause any uneasiness in your heart in those early years? How did you look at Jack? Like he had something maybe you wanted more of, or you accepted things right away?
Oh, yes. I wanted more of what he had. It was overwhelming to meet his family. I had one sister, a very small family. Even our extended family was small. So, but there was so much joy and love and laughter and chaos. It was what I had always dreamed of. And No, I love the faith. I can remember again, the first time I went to a Catholic church was with him. He brought me with his friends, and I can remember watching everyone go up to receive Jesus, and I couldn't go, and they knew what to do. They were so reverent. No one needed to tell them anything. They were It was just beautiful. And to this day, I love to watch everyone go up and receive Jesus. Just it's so beautiful and humbling, you know.
when I read that, this coming weekend, I'm doing a men's retreat here in the Tampa Bay area, and so many people now don't really think of God very much throughout the day.
Mhm, mhm,
It's kind of sad
mhm,
because he's it, and that
mhm.
hit me when you mentioned about that. Now you were married in 1981, I believe,
That's
and
right, in December. Mhm,
two daughters.
mhm.
How soon after you were married did the girls come?
They came in '85, beginning of '85, and then '87, and, you know, you asked me some good questions, in your email, and, I have said many times to my own girls, and that's why they started early, I'm so grateful that we started having our family young, because I wouldn't have children if I had waited, and we waited about a year and a half. And I've thought to myself, I could have had another. I could have had a third at the very on the pre, but that's okay. And it just is the way it was. But I'm so grateful for the children I have. So
Uh, Having my own business and understanding Jack had to have been really putting in long hours in those early years to grow the company. Was that
right,
was that tough because he probably wasn't around as much as
that's right.
an 8 to 5?
And it was his dad. His dad was the one who had the Krispy Kreme. Jack had grown up. All of his siblings worked at the donut shop, and he worked at the donut shop, and um, but it was it's a lot of work. Fast food is a lot of work. So when we were in North Carolina, and his dad, had helped purchase the company, and so Jack started at the store, the flagship store that was right there in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and he was gone a lot. I mean, they're open every day of the year. And they have to be there Christmas to open up for the next day. So, it was a lot of work, and it was hard. But it's a great product.
You talk,
Still love the donuts.
yeah, you talk about Jack and his brother Mac
Uh-huh.
uh, developing a growth strategy for the
Mhm.
company, and it was an interesting story. I think correct me if I'm wrong, but it was Indianapolis about a
Mhm.
radio show.
Mhm.
To share with the viewers what that one story was about.
Well, I will not do it justice. I quizzed him before my interview, because Indianapolis was the first store outside the Southeast. Krispy Kreme had been a Southeastern company, small company with a great product, and so they went. And I can't even tell you why they chose Indianapolis, but they did, and Jack and his brother Mac were beginning to realize the power of the donut. When people ate the donuts, they were just in awe, and they just loved them, and so they started just giving them away, because that sold the people on the donuts, and they loved them when they were hot, because that's a pretty unusual, especially at this time. It was an unusual um, experience, to see the donuts come through the conveyor belt. They called it donut theater, because you could watch them in the store, because every store had its own. They were a manufacturing company. Every store had its own, equipment, and you could watch the donuts be made, and then they go through the waterfall of glaze, and so they started capitalizing on that. They started realizing that people love to watch the donuts, they love to eat the donuts. So, and they wanted to get into retail, and, do wholesale, but also retail. So that was what they worked so hard on.
Now, as the girls were growing, you had a desire for more children, but we're
Mhm.
told medically that wasn't going to happen.
Right.
Um, how did you feel when you got that news? And were you having any conversations with God at that time?
Yes. Yes, I was. Yes, I was. I sat on the floor and cried, and my youngest daughter Jennifer, tried to console me. But, I it was hard, and I share it in my story that, it was hard to be so many of my friends were having their 3rd child, and, I mean, of course, I was so grateful. Please, no one should ever, question my gratitude for my 2 girls. I was so grateful, and, but, many people have 3rd and 4th and 5th and 6th, and I just thought, "1 more." So, anyway, we looked at all the alternatives, and, we even looked at domestic adoption, but we were told because we had 2 children already that we would be low on the list, and I totally understood that. Um, we were so blessed. But then when our own diocese, the Diocese of Charlotte, set up this relationship with an orphanage in Russia, it was in our Catholic News and Herald that came to our door. And it was just, wow. That almost like God was making it kind of easy, but it was never really easy. But anyway, it just was again the times, the communism had fallen. The walls were down. The so many of the countries were opening up. Romania was popular. Children from Romania were coming into our country through adoption, and I think China was happening a little bit. And anyway, so this was new for Russia. Um, so anyway, it just seemed like a beautiful thing to do.
Now, obviously, you read the article and then you spoke with Jack. What was his reaction?
Oh, he was thrilled. He's game. He's always game. He's 6th out of 7 children. He goes with the flow. He'll take it and run. He just my oldest daughter has 7, and so I watch number 6 as a little boy. I watch him and I think that's what Jack must have been like because he has to survive, and Luke is pretty tough. So, Jack was game, but he didn't have the time. So it was up to me to figure it all out. And, I had the time, so I could do it.
You mentioned also you talked to Jack's family, your family, and you can imagine, like anything else, everybody's got their own opinion. Not everybody thought this was the greatest idea, did they?
I didn't. My mom and my parents thought we were crazy. Just be happy with what you've got and enjoy your life. And yeah, I mean, I was, and I did, but I don't know. But Jack's parents, his parents were very different. His dad's motto was the more the merrier. So this was awesome. His dad wrote one of our recommendation letters, and um, they were just, fully supportive. And they even some of the cousins laugh because Alex was the only one who ever got to sleep in grandmama and grandpa's bed. He was the very last one. He was the littlest, and they were always so good to him. So sweet.
So they had to come in. We've worked with these agencies, and you mentioned about the home study. Did that cause a little gut wrenching in you when you knew they were coming, or how did all that work out?
Yeah, but my Marie Givner, and I use her true name because she was a good friend, and but she was so kind. She put me at total ease. Talking to her was like talking to, a best friend, actually a therapist, because I could share she asked the questions like you're asking, questions of my upbringing, questions of my feelings, what I was, and my desires. And so, it was more therapeutic. Actually, it turned out to be like that more so than uneasy. It was wonderful. I loved her. So
You had many forms, as one could imagine. You've got the Russian government looking at all this stuff. You got the U.S. government looking at stuff. Uh, it was kind of disappointing in the book to read how many times you had to send forms because they kept losing. But that had to have been frustrating. And It is what
Yeah,
it is, I guess, but
you're right, and it was such a long time ago. I try to get my grandchildren to understand what it was like, pre-cell phones, even computers were newly, they were new. We relied on the mail, as I talk about, things got lost. Um, so it was hard. It was challenging. Took a lot of patience.
it was a job just to get a photo of Alex, wasn't it?
But the Russians were pretty good, they got us one. It's amazing, and it was a good photo. He looked so cute and sweet, and, the photo on the cover of this book is his, and that was, taken for his passport to come home. Um, but, yeah, yeah, they did well.
Share about the incident when Jack had to pick up the photo and met the lady halfway, and the weather wasn't cooperating from what I read.
It wasn't. It wasn't. Yeah, we had been asking for the photo, and it took a little time to get here, but, Jack drove to Charlotte and was met by our contact at Catholic Social Services, and it was like a prize. It was more than a prize. It was something you've desired for so long that you just wanna see, we had no idea what he looked like, and, we just to get to know this picture was coming, and Jack took it in the rainy weather, and he wouldn't look at it, and brought it home, and we looked at it together, and, it was just such a beautiful, sweet, honest photo of a sweet little boy.
I was touched that Jack didn't open it, the envelope, until he got home. I thought, well, that shows what kind of guy he is, because he opened it together, didn't he?
That's right, 'cause, we didn't know, you know, it's it's like giving birth. Well, it used to be, now they have so many beautiful pictures of the children, in utero, but, still, to see your child for the first time outside of the womb is quite you never forget it, so for us, it was like that. It was like that.
Well, what was your first reaction in Jack's when you saw the picture?
Oh, he was beautiful. He had beautiful eyes, bright, um, he was unsure. Looks like he'd never perhaps seen a camera before, being held by one of the mamas we assumed in the orphanage, and, again, it was a black and white Polaroid, but it was, and his hair was so light because he was blonde, and he had on a little dark shirt, so sweet. He looked to be about 3.
He had a nickname, didn't he?
Sasha.
Sasha. What does that mean? What was the significance of that? Was it
I can't really answer that. It was just the nickname they had given to the children with Alexander or Alexandra,
okay?
um, Sasha, and of course those are long names. But and we held on to it for a while. But when he got here, it was just too different. Um, we had to, and Alexander was such a good name. It's such an American name. We never had to worry with his name or change it, or he just went right into school with with the name Alexander. It was beautiful.
One thing I remember about reading in other books on the Russian orphanages, these children never really left the orphanage, did they? They didn't get outside much. They were kind of
Not much.
in the building, so to speak.
Yeah. It was like a big, huge farmhouse, a little dilapidated. They would go outside and play. Um, but there were a lot of children for the mamas, for the number of mamas. And I think, yeah, yeah, they did get, you're right. They didn't go many places. There just wasn't a way to get them anywhere.
Didn't you send him a teddy bear?
We did. We sent him a Pooh Bear, Winnie the Pooh. And he had it. We had it when we got there, and he brought it with him home. So, and we'd send him a book with pictures of us. And I share this too, that um, we were told once we were in Russia that the children in the orphanages are told that one day their parents will come back for them. So the children are waiting. And so Alex was comfortable when we got there. His parents had come, just like he had been told. So he was ready to go. He wanted to go in the machina. That's what he called it, the van that was waiting outside, and he was just ready to go. Let's go.
Let's get into a little bit more on the whole process because one of the tougher chapters was how our government gave a letter of disapproval. Can you share with us what that was all about?
Yes. Well, again, I hate to share when I was at Auburn with Jack. Jack had gone home to work at his Krispy Kreme store, and so I was with his fraternity brothers. Anyway, we got into a little bit of trouble. Nothing's weird or sad. It was actually quite funny, but I ended up having an issue. So when when our paperwork went through to the U.S. government, this issue kind of surfaced, and they denied me. So we had to go through a lot of some legal work, and the lawyers had shared with Jack that once the government gives a decree, it rarely changes its mind. So left with that realization, it was hard, to think that Alex might not be our child. I mean, we didn't know we were dealing with powers beyond our control. So that was hard, and that happened right before Christmas. We're supposed to go in January. We got our denial, and then so we went on to see Jack's family in Mobile for Christmas. So that's kind of when it all happened with his mom and the holy card and what I call the miracle.
Tell us
Because
about the Holy Card and where you were at that time spiritually, maybe.
oh well, I had never received a holy card, or I don't remember having. I was still new in my faith. Um, but Jack's mom came and found me and gave me two holy cards, and one of them was lovely lady dressed in blue, and it's a Marian prayer to our Blessed Mother, because God was her little boy, and she knows the way. So anyway, there in the bathroom, I prayed that prayer to our Blessed Mother. I had never asked our Blessed Mother for anything. I didn't have a relationship with our Blessed Mother. I do now, but I had to leave it in her hands because I had no recourse. We were just waiting to hear if our um, petition for to change the status of our adoption would be honored or granted. So,
Now, one chapter in the book was titled "The Miracle."
mhm.
In your heart, what was the miracle?
Well, the miracle was that just a few days later, we received a approval to go. I mean, it was within all the time frame we had set. We had a week still left to go to get him with our visas and with everything the Russians had set up. And, we just thought we just didn't know how it could possibly happen, you know, but it did. And everything was back on track and we were on our way. To me, it was just such a miracle.
Now, what time of year did you go then to Moscow to pick them up?
In January, early January.
It was a year later or a month
No,
later?
a week later.
Oh, wow. That is a
I
miracle.
mean, it just happened. I know. We got home from Mobile. We it was a f So that was like the 25th, and so we were just waiting, and it came through, the approval. So our visas were ready to go. Our our plane tickets were ready to go, so we were able to go, and everything that had been worked out happened. It for me it was just a miracle. It was our Blessed Mother intervening. She had to have.
Did anybody besides you and Jack go over? You took the girls, or
Mhm,
did
mhm,
Catholic anybody from
mm-mm,
just the
no, just the 4 of us went, and so we were there for Russian Christmas, and we'd experienced our own Christmas, but, the Russians celebrate, over New Year's and, Epiphany, so we were there for Epiphany, and, um, it was wonderful. It was cold. We were Our clothes cannot compete with the Russian furs and the way they dress and what they know, but we did well. But the girls, we wanted the our daughters to understand. It was scary bringing them, but we just wanted them to know because they were old enough to remember some or all of it, and to just be a part.
I remember the girls were all for this from day one, it seemed like, and they had taken his picture to school with him, didn't they?
Yes, they did. Can you believe I let them take it to school?
No,
I'm
but that's
amazed.
another story. Uh,
That's right. But yeah, they wanted to. We wanted them to feel good about it. It was a good thing, and again, like I said, this was happening in our country. Children were being adopted from other countries. In fact, Lauren, our oldest, one of her classmates was adopted from Colombia, a little boy. So it was not unusual, and so she knew that, but we just wanted them to feel good about it.
Now, was he 3 then when you, picked him up?
Mm-mm, he looked 3, but he turned 5 in April, after we got home. So he was 4,
Did he have
but he was yeah,
Go ahead, no, did he have any trouble picking up English? Because he was so young?
yes. Well, no, because kids are resilient. Yes and no. It's funny, I share in my story, that's one thing I really didn't think about. I don't know who the Holy Spirit, doesn't even give me that thought in my head. Looking back, I never even thought he would be speaking Russian, but he was. So then we had to work through all that, but children are so smart and resilient, and he picked up so quickly. Especially with 2 sisters that talk to him all the time, so it was great. It was good.
Now, how old is he now, and what's he doing with his life?
He's 35, and he works for EWTN.
Really?
Yes, he is a media specialist and, works from home. He's married to a beautiful young woman, Laura. They're about the same age. They are 1 day apart in their age, and they're expecting their 2nd child, a little girl who's going to be named Anastasia, good Russian name. But Alex is doing well, and actually that's part of why this book is actually, I think, being published is because he said Mom, I know a few people at EWTN. Let's send it to them." And I said, "It's great." We were going to publish it kind of through our own little media company we have, but this is his story. So I said, "Sure." So we sent it to one of his contacts, Devin Jones, and they said they would. So I'm thrilled because I feel like Alex, you know, he's on board with this story, with sharing his story. So,
Really neat. That's really neat.
yes, it is.
On a more serious note, uh, is a healthcare professional retired now, but my sister ministry is healthcare professionals for mercy.
Mhm,
We have a conference every year, and abortion's a topic, in vitro fertilization and
mhm,
bioethics and things like that. And
mhm,
adoption is not really thought of it as an option so much in this country because there's so many abortions going on.
mhm.
What would you like to tell women who are out there, pregnant, scared, maybe unmarried, or in difficult marriage and contemplating an abortion?
Yeah, I saw that in your questions, and it is such a good question, and it's something I think about all the time. You know, I, as you can imagine from my story, I like to share with people. I share very openly, often, always have. And, so often people share back. When you open up your heart, walls come down and people will share with you. So, through the many years, I've had many women share with me about their abortion, and it's hard for them. It haunts them. They carry it with them. It it's something, that never goes away, that I have heard. Um, you think you're taking care of something, you know, but in truth, you carry it with you. Um, and when my mother-in-law was dying, she had dreams, and in one of her dreams, Jack's dad came and hugged her. And in another dream, she dreamed of her children, and she saw all of her children when they were young, and they were all dressed in white. And there weren't 7 of them, there were 8 of them. And one of his mom had a miscarriage in right before Jack, in between Jack and his older sister, Sandra. And, she didn't recognize the little girl, but she looked familiar. She looked like all of her other children. And, so she talked to us afterwards about it. It was most likely the child she had miscarried. And, I thought about that so much because I had a miscarriage in between my 2 girls. And, I've shared with people that I have one in heaven. Um, and I share with people that if I feel like I can, I tell people that I have 15 grandchildren, which makes them all smile and laugh. But I think I have 20 because I think I have 5 in heaven because we've had miscarriages and we've had 2 stillbirths. And so I have them waiting for me. And so I know those children who have been aborted. I mean, it's real. They're waiting up in heaven. And, the moms have to deal with that. And I encourage them I loved adoption. It's adoption is a wonderful, wonderful gift to be able to give a couple who can't have children a child. It's just the greatest gift. I encourage it all the time. I'm very honest about my child who is adopted. I'm very proud. I want him to be very proud of what his mother did and how much love and joy he brought to us and our family. And so, I would tell anybody my story. And that's part of the reason I've done it, is because maybe it could help somebody to realize what a gift you could give somebody else by having a child and giving it up for adoption, allowing another couple or family to share that child's life.
We've been discussing Jamie McAleer's book, I Will Come to You, a story of adoption and the relentless love of God. Years ago, as I mentioned, I had written this book,
Mhm,
Father Pavone, on Rachel Weep No More, for
mhm,
the healing
mhm,
with bad abortion. And so many women, as I travel, think it's the unforgivable sin. But
mhm,
God's mercy is so great. The rays of blood and water just are
mhm,
pouring over everybody. But you have to be humble enough to ask for his mercy.
mhm,
But the beauty of adoption, you feel it every day of your life.
mhm,
And
mhm.
it's a tremendous gift. Any closing thoughts you want to share with our audience before we wrap up today's show?
Whew, that's a hard one. I could keep going on and on and on. And um, I, I don't know. I should have shared my heart, so I'm kind of recovering too. I just believe in it so much. I encourage people, you know, to have children. Um, they're just the greatest gift of all. My grandchildren are my best buddies besides my own kids and my husband. And we spend so much time with them. I tell them stories. I try to get them to understand where I come from, and even what my parents were like and Jack's parents, and what life was like and what might possibly lie in store for them. And I just want to know them, and I want them to know me. Well, um I know I overstep my boundaries often. My daughters tease me just cuz I just want to spend time with them. Um and to see in them, I see in my grandchildren the combinations of my daughter and my son-in-law, that they're all so different. I mean, every grandchild is so different and so funny, and I just marvel at it. The combinations. And it's so much fun to have a lot. People tease me all the time, and I love to tell people how many I have just because of the reaction I get. You know, it's really quite funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know, I think we were I don't know, God, he has a great sense of humor. He's so good, and he lavishes when you allow him.
We have 7 children, and
You're so blessed.
my my wife had Claire Therese when she was 50,
Oh,
and
wow.
people look at us 7 and they roll their eyes or make a comment, or with Claire, you know, many would have gone the abortion route, and
Mhm,
life is truly a gift, and
mhm.
you're so blessed. It's almost like God blesses you, and you're eating Krispy Kreme donuts every. You know?
We gotta watch our sugar.
Jamie, I want to thank you for joining me today on Mercy on Down. People, go online to ewtnrc.com or sophiainstitute.com, and you can get Jamie's book, I Will Come to You, A Story of Adoption and the Relentless Love of God. And you will feel the love of God come out in the pages. So, Jamie,
Mhm.
thanks so much for,
Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
and hope our paths cross again soon. And
I
God,
hope so too.
thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Okay.
Please subscribe to our YouTube channel for the video portion. The podcast can be heard at anchor.fm/Dr. Brian, Bryan Thatcher, Thatcher, and on all the major podcast forums. I would love to speak at your church or conference, and please consider supporting our efforts to spread the truth to a hurting world. Thank you again. And for more information, go to the website at drbrianthatcher.com.